this, sort of proposal to amend the finance bill 2023. So what's your plan as the opposition on the floor of the House?
Yeah, Brenda, I'll answer that, but please allow me to first confirm that I think you're putting my friend in serious pressure because you're reminding him what Kenyans are saying. And I think that's one of the things that everyone wants to run away from that team of Kenya Kwanza. And when he spoke, I was shocked. My friend here says that the problems Kenya is facing have come from the past regime because they've borrowed excessively. And I was with him in Parliament in 2013, in the 11th Parliament, when Uhuru and Ruto, the duo, the two of them, when they were almost like Siamese twins, wearing uniform, even naming cabinet together. They were bosom buddies. That's the time Kenya started borrowing. And then I was still in the opposition with him because he was in ODM. And we clearly called them out for this excessive borrowing. And I remember even, there was Eurobond issues. There was a lot of sarcasm around borrowing. And we said that we are digging Kenya into a hole. Now, it's interesting when Kenya Kwanza leaders speak, they are exonerating the president, who was part of the problem from the beginning. Because this problem didn't start yesterday or after Raila, cooled down the temperatures by shaking hands with Uhuru. The problem started in 2013. So let's not blame anyone. Let's talk about the current situation. We as Azimio, we want to save Kenyans. We are saying Kenyans, the cost of living is too high.
But how are you going to save Kenyans on the floor of the House?
Brenda, you'll be surprised. You will be very surprised that a lot of members from the Kenya Kwanza side are already against this bill. And I'll tell you why.
Can you
For example,
that?
I'll tell you why. I'll give you a very simple example. Right now, all our unions, civil service, the teachers' unions, whom we represent in our constituencies, are already writing memoranda to Parliament, to the clerk of the National Assembly. And these memoranda are coming through their members of Parliament. Mm-hmm. So even those ones from Bomet, from Nandi, from Uasin Gishu, from, all of them are receiving memoranda and they are actually presenting them to the clerk of the National Assembly on behalf of their constituents. Mm-hmm. Because teachers are against it, the doctors are against it, almost all civil servants are against it. So how would you expect a member of Parliament to stand on the floor of the House and support a bill where it is going to hurt the people that elected them? It means that they are sacrificing their political future, and that means that in 2027 they will not be re-elected.
All right.
That's a trick we have. We know they will support us,
right,
because they are worried about 2027.
So let me try and be the devil's advocate here.
Yes.
If you're wearing President William Samoei Ruto's shoes, how would you have handled this? Because whether it was the Uhuru Kenyatta regime,
yes,
or it is President William Ruto regime, the 16% is inevitable. Because that is what the former president, Uhuru Kenyatta, wanted back then in 2018. But then it went to 8%. Then now 8% was supposed to be introduced after 2 years, which never happened. So if you are in the shoes of President William Samoei Ruto, how would you have handled this issue?
Let me tell you, Brenda, you need to understand that every year the finance bill is passed. It's one of those bills that is done annually. And it doesn't matter what was passed a year before, because every year we discuss the tax issues again, afresh. And so there is always room for these changes. Mm-hmm. He can actually scrap VAT completely on fuel products if he wanted and made that proposal. So it's possible. There's nothing that is cast in stone. And that is why every year we debate the finance bill, mm-hmm, because what happens is that after they come up with the estimates, budget estimates, now the next thing is to figure out how do we raise the money, mm-hmm, to cover to raise enough money to be able to fulfill the obligations of the budget estimates.
Yeah.
So that is where we are. And I can tell you that it's not because it was passed previously that it is in the finance bill now. No, it is because that's a wish of Kenya Kwanza government to ensure that Kenyans now pay 16%. I will tell you that during Uhuru's time, and people might castigate him, but Uhuru understood the signs of times. When we had COVID and people were laid off and there was trouble, mm-hmm, he provided incentives. He brought down the cost of education by giving subsidy on education. So, boarding children are paying like 50% of what they're paying now. He also provided subsidies on the cost of food. so that food prices went down, so that it could help the Kenyans go beyond that period because they were suffering. That's what we are wondering about this regime. This regime is not responsive and is not sensitive to the times.
All right. Honorable Isaac Mora, we says that this regime is not sensitive to time, what Kenyans are going through right now, because every Kenyan feels like, personally, I feel like I'm overtaxed. You buy